Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Hi folks, Cesar here again with you. Thank you for joining us this evening. We've got another serious show this evening. I wanted to put this in the forefront. The reason why we're here this evening is, as you know, you've been probably listening to the news, more unintentional shootings. And I don't know if you recall, but previously I had a guest from the Brady campaign on. And we were talking a little bit over the past few days, and we thought it's time again for another show on this topic. It seems that we haven't had a lot of progress. So my next guest joining us again, Kevin Burgin with the Brady campaign. And Kevin, thanks for joining us. I wanted to put up this picture of what you and I were kind of like grappling with. Nothing really changes much here. And I was looking at this and you and I were talking about, and I'll ask the folks at home to imagine, if they would for a moment, what these children might be doing had they not been victims of unintentional shootings. And I think that's why we're here. I certainly know that's why you're here.
It is. To
help bring some order to this chaos and madness. So welcome to the show again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Sure. Let's start with some statistics. I think in the year that I picked here, there were almost 100 children in Northern Virginia, I believe it was, that were killed through unintentional deaths. And some statistics for the folks at home. I want you to kind of listen to these stats. 36% of the households have firearms that are unlocked or loaded. That's about 50,000 households. And it's a lot of kids exposed to a lot of guns that are unlocked or somehow not secured. 50,000. That's a lot of potential accidents, correct?
Disasters.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said in your opening, Cesar, that nothing changes, and the thought that went through my mind is, yes, there's change. Mm-hmm. The 25 children that are on that poster change, and they'll be replaced by 28 or 32 others, and then the following month it'll be another 40 or 19 or 26, and it's just so horrific and terrible, and what makes it so terrible is they are preventable. Those deaths are preventable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I look at these numbers, and thank you for coming back again and bringing these, I can't wrap my head around how this is not an urgent issue. I mean, we seem to kind of like lose it within all the noise. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just again, for the folks at home, let me read these numbers again. 50,000 in the state of Virginia, 50,000 children live in a household where the firearm is unlocked and loaded. That's an estimate, right? Mm-hmm. That's an estimate.
Yes.
What do people need to understand here? That's, we just had another child shoot accidentally another child.
That seems to be, I'm on Facebook a lot because of my interest in this topic, and it seems to me that it's almost a daily occurrence where 3-year-old shoots 5-year-old, 7-year-old shoots grandfather.
Sure.
These guns, and I want to appeal to the responsible gun owners that are watching this show, and I know there are countless of them, responsible gun owners. Lock up the gun.
Sure.
Don't hide it. Have you ever tried to hide something from your kids around Christmas time?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Their birthday is coming. Sure. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, let's be clear. We are not talking about taking anyone's guns away.
Absolutely not.
Right?
Absolutely
I mean, just
not.
so for the people that want to conflate these issues, these are separate issues here. We're talking about safety for the sake of children. So when we talk about locking them or securing them, you're right, it's not hiding them in between a bunch of T-shirts in the back closet or something. Sure.
Yeah, and to me, the Ask campaign, which is my piece of the action, if you will, with Brady in Northern Virginia, it is so easy because it appeals to both sides. It's not a left, right, red, blue, us, them, pro-gun, anti-gun. It's saving kids' lives. That's what Ask is all about, saving kids' lives. Your child, her child, his child.
Yeah. For some folks that may not be familiar, maybe didn't catch the previous show, tell us a little bit about Ask and why that is so important moving forward.
I'd love to. Ask is very important. It's very important to everyone, and it's particularly important to me, and to have this forum is just wonderful. Ask was a collaborative effort between the American Academy of Pediatricians and Brady. And it is simply to get those who look after children, parents, but maybe older siblings, maybe grandparents, but whoever has responsibility for a child, when that child goes to a home that they've not been to before, you obviously are going to pick up the phone and say, we'll have John over there probably at 3 o'clock. Will that be good for you on this arranged play date? And then you might need to tell them something about John and the fact that he has peanut allergies. Maybe he doesn't. You might need to say something about he had recently been bitten by a large dog. You might want to bring that into the conversation. What we want you to make sure is part of the conversation. And this is tough. I'm not saying this is easy. It'll just roll off your tongue. You may have to practice it before you do it. Are there any guns in your home? I'm sorry if you take offense, but I need to know. My child, I want my child to be safe. I need to know. Are there guns in the home? No? Great. See you at 3:15.
And if the answer is yes, well, are they secured?
Are they secured? Are they locked up? Does the child have access?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Seems reasonable. I think maybe part of the culture is not to ask the uncomfortable question. But
it's tough. It's awkward. But parenting is tough.
Sure.
You know, it's just another tough part of being a parent to ask that question.
And I don't want to belabor this point. There are statistics. We have pictures, and I mean, this would be a different show if parents were educated on these statistics. With these numbers, I hope it drives parents to ask and learn more about the process. Do you have any type of material, rehearsals, or training that can sit parents down and maybe walk them through this?
Absolutely. We've got a brochure, and right on the cover of it, it says, "Awkward conversations come with being a parent."
Okay, sure.
But
sure.
One of those questions could save your child's life. I would suggest that you may be part of a bowling group. You may be part of a quilting group. You may be part of a book club. Bring this topic to those forums and get comfortable with it.
Sure.
I was watching TV the other night, and Cesar on the Inside Scoop, he had this guy on talking about Ask. Any of you guys ever heard of Ask?
Right.
No? What's Ask mean? Well, I haven't said that yet. Ask means asking saves kids.
Nice.
If you ask about guns, you could be saving your child's life.
Sure.
And the website, just to go on with that, is askingsaveskids.org. You go on there, you can download the brochures. They're in English and Spanish. You can download posters. You can download banners. There's a wealth of information on the Ask website, askingsaveskids.org.
Excellent. What events, what other initiatives for this year or next year is the organization doing to get this awareness out?
Let's see. We have one on Monday, the 24th of August, I have it written down here, at the historic Pleasant Grove Church, 8641 Lewinsville Road.
Okay.
It'll be moderated by Kathleen Murphy.
Oh, right here in McLean.
McLean,
Yeah,
correct,
yeah.
correct. Kathleen Murphy will moderate a discussion on gun violence and prevention strategies.
Sure.
I mean, that's just exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. And for the folks at home that don't know, Kathleen Murphy just won that seat, that vacated seat this past year. So she is a delegate in the House of Representatives.
She is a delegate in Fairfax and Loudoun counties
Right,
for
right.
Kathleen Murphy, and a
Good.
staunch ally of ours in the House of Delegates.
Yes, she's got a story that's very
Yes,
personal
she does.
to her.
Yes,
so.
she does.
What other support or networks or connections with other groups that you got out there?
I'm reaching out to the Fairfax County school system, and not to a PTA meeting, because I have 3 teachers in my family, and I know PTA are hardworking volunteers, but they don't get the amount of parents coming to their meetings that we want to get this word to. Fairfax County has an email system to go to parents. So I would like to explore with Fairfax County getting this word into the homes of the children enrolled in the Fairfax County school system.
Yeah.
That would be a major accomplishment if we could do that.
That would seem to be the quickest way for people, parents, to connect the dots here. You certainly would have a large number of targeted or focused, concerned parents. It's a good education, I think, system for them. So
I have another that if they're willing, they could go to their local minister, rabbi, imam, Catholic priest. They could get this into church bulletins. For those that are willing, they could get it off of the altar from behind the pulpit to talk about gun violence. If you want to talk about right to life, my goodness, are we talking about right to life? We certainly are.
Sure.
Those children had a right to life, and it was taken from them.
Wow. Yeah. Well, some in Richmond would disagree with that. I don't. I think you're absolutely spot on. We're going to continue this segment because this is pretty important. So
Okay.
when we come back, we'll pick up on some of these other topics and
Okay.
maybe talk about what we can do to kind of change these statistics. So,
Great.
folks, please hang out with us a little bit. We want to get this topic addressed and get more of you involved to help us stem this increasing tide here. We'll be right back. Thank you.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Wanted some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try.
Only you.
Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about ripped off life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals and the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water.
At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site.
That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff.
You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent! Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school, These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar here again. We're talking about another painful topic once again. Accidental deaths with guns and unintentional deaths. Ken, we were talking about this during the break. We were kind of just looking at what these children could have been, right? And the tragedy is it could have been prevented. So that's why we're here. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. We're doing this show again to maybe have a little bit of change take place out there. So we're not doing these every quarter, year after year, it seems like.
I'd like to think we're going to make lots and lots of progress, but it's a tough road. It really is a tough road.
Yeah.
But back to the children on the poster. When I see those, they come up on the website that I participate on every month. And so, as I said, those numbers will change, the children will change, but the tragedy is the same month after month after month. And I look and I think, what would he have been? Could he have been a ball player, a musician, a journalist?
Sure.
Would he be an activist? Would he be a scientist, a school teacher? Sisters and brothers that he had? What did they? And what about the one? If it was a brother or a sister that found the gun, what in the world that child will experience as they grow up and realize what had happened to their brother or sister?
Yeah.
It's just painful. It's painful.
Yeah. Well, we have to keep doing this, right? I mean,
we have to increase our numbers. That's what I have been told by a close friend that I went to see for advice about what could be done legally in this realm, and not a lot, unfortunately. But what he told me was, you need more members and you need more money. You need more activists.
Sure.
We need people to get the message and say, they just lost a plane over in Indonesia, and it was on, I think it was on the front page of the Post, and it was all over the major TV networks today. I think it was 53 people. That's terrible. That's a tragedy. We'll kill that many, in the rest of this week, plus some. It just doesn't get the people willing to step up and maybe push the Ask program in their circle with their friends.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, why is it that there's this sort of, I don't want to use the term, but lackadaisical approach to solving the problem? And again, it starts with the legislators in Richmond. I guess enough people just aren't raising the issue.
Yeah. That's true, but I would like to walk it back. I mean, is there enough attention being paid to Donald Trump and Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush? I mean, that's not gonna change anything, no matter who gets in from which party. A third party, Republican or Democrat, that is not going to change this issue. What's going to change this issue is, do you know who's representing you in your congressional district? Not U.S. Congress, although that's important. I'm talking about the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Sure.
Who's taking your view down to Richmond so that when a bill comes up that will impact this in a favorable way, they know where you stand on the issue?
So here's a challenge to the folks at home to help us. And I would ask that you find who your representative is for the Virginia House of Delegates and for the Virginia State Senate. If you don't know the names of those people, those are the two people that you need to get in contact with. So the House of Delegate and the State Senate representative, and they will listen to you.
And I'm very new at this. I've been at this since February of 14 as a full-time activist in the prevention of gun violence issue. That's when I started. But what I saw when I went to Richmond for Lobby Day, and I was all over the Capitol building and visiting my delegates, the bill that got me involved passed out of the Senate with a 29 to 6 to 5 vote. There were 40 senators. I think that comes out to 40, 29-6-5. That had to have bipartisan support. It had to be, both sides said this is a good bill, and sent it to the House of Delegates. That bill was killed in a committee, and I sent an email to the head of that committee, got no answer, so I sent it to every member of that committee. And the answer I got back was from one committee member. There were 13. I got one answer. The one answer was, what you don't understand, Mr. Bergen, is that this is the committee where gun bills are sent to die. Is that not tragic? I mean, why can't that side and this side be like you and I? Why can't they sit down and say, you know, what can I give you that might convince you to look at what I'm asking for? How can we manage? It doesn't manage. It's this. Yeah. And it's just so wrong and depressing.
And that again, let's not get too depressed here, because there are a lot of people in the House of Delegates in Virginia that are very binary on this topic. But they've been conditioned to think binary. And again, to the manufacturers, we're not talking about taking anyone's guns. We're not talking about limiting people's guns. We're simply talking about some reasonable, secure controls in households that have children. Right, that's all we're talking about here. And I don't know if we get there with the current crop, which is why we need new people that can think of innovative ways to transform the culture that we have into something that we can work towards. Because right now, I think the crop we've got ain't going to do it.
That's true. In my opinion, you're right on. That's true.
I mean, this is painful, but you know, the more we push and the more we make this available. Have you tried maybe going to some of the local public schools, or some of the school board members, or the board of supervisors? I mean, what about that avenue to get the word out?
That's a recent initiative that I've taken with the Fairfax County School Board, and hopefully with the Mount Vernon supervisor. That's my district. But it's local. It really is local, and they need to know where you stand and what you expect of them. You know, what are you doing in the field of prevention of gun violence? How are you going to represent me in attempting to prevent gun violence?
Sure.
You want to ask those questions. Go to the town hall meetings.
Sure. Now you've approached. What's the response been to your inquiries? What's the support been like?
Up until this point, I was dealing with individual schools, and I understand it was not good, and I understand why it was not. These are overworked volunteers who have kids in school. They have jobs to do. They're working at home and out of the home. And so I didn't have a lot of luck going to individual schools. That's why I've decided to maybe try and do it top down as opposed to bottom up.
That's a good approach. Actually, doing it at all levels is ideally the way to do it, but when you have limited resources and time, that's certainly the most effective way.
And more people, more people. I read an article in the Post, and that's what caused me to get involved. Whatever causes you to get involved, that whatever gets you on the wagon, get on the bandwagon with us. We need to address the gun violence in this country. Oh God, we need to.
That's a huge problem. I mean, I do like your approach, local. Right, let's start with the local district or the local House representative and state. I think another thing is maybe the school board members, because they each represent districts. So maybe if the folks at home can find out another person to get to know in addition to your House of Delegate, your state senator, is your school board member, who that person would be, and certainly ask them about ask. Is that something they'd be willing to communicate to the students or the parents of those schools?
And their supervisor for the Board of Supervisors, because they're a power in the county, in Fairfax County. So,
right, so we just added another person. You got 4 people. House of Delegate rep, State Senate rep, Board of Supervisor, and your school board member. Those are the 4 folks we want you to go find and challenge you to ask them about ask.
And not to downplay the local, because I really think that's where it is, but we're going to try and lobby the U.S. Congress. We're not making much headway there either, but there might be some movement in the U.S. Congress. So with our 2 senators, I think we need to get the word to Senator Warner to come out as strong as Senator Kaine, and let's get some legislation on universal background checks, and let's don't just stay with the county. We can also elevate when the time comes. There's discussion, I guess, now on the possibility of bills to come out on universal background checks.
Yeah, well, that long-term strategy there that is going to take some time. I think, again, it's just a lot of things contribute to it, but it seems the congressional makeup makes it tough for any type of reasonable discussion, let alone a vote, because of the influence of special interests. This one just happens to be a pretty strong interest group, being the NRA, the manufacturers, basically.
But I mentioned at the onset, and I'd like to mention it again, I firmly believe, I'd love to know so that I could state it as a fact, that an overwhelming number of responsible gun owners who are members of the NRA would support everything that we have said here tonight. They certainly don't want their 4-year-old to go into the den and find their Glock 9mm in the TV stand drawer and take it out and it's loaded and unlocked. Please, they don't want that.
And I would agree, Kevin. They don't, and folks, we're pretty sure you don't. So please visit the website. Kevin Tur, thank you again for joining us. And folks, let's get moving on this issue. It's far too important to let it go. We'll be right back.
This year, 28,000 Americans will be diagnosed with oral cancer. Every year, 7,000 Americans die of oral cancer.
I'm Eva Cohen, and I'm an oral cancer survivor. I didn't fit the profile. I didn't smoke or drink. I had no family history of cancer, no family history of cancer. I was 31 years old. 31 years old. I went to see my dentist about a sore in my mouth that wouldn't heal. It was oral cancer. I had to have a radical neck dissection and a portion of my tongue reconstructed. I didn't know if I was going to live or die.
I'm Surgeon General Richard Carmona. The survival rate for oral cancer is only 50%. Oral cancer can happen to anyone. If you have a sore or lesion in your mouth that doesn't heal within 2 weeks, see your dentist. Early detection is the key.
Early detection saves lives. I know.
1 in 8 Americans goes hungry. One idea helped change that. A community started a garden that blossomed into farmers markets. 1 in 6 children lives in poverty. One group of women found an answer by opening a daycare center that their neighbors could afford. Today, 36 million Americans live in poverty, but one by one, people are helping themselves and each other to change the picture of poverty to one of hope. For easy ways you can help, visit povertyusa.org.
2 words for you. Pop quiz. Ready? Name any funny movie. A drama. Name a mystery. And one more thing. Name the movie your kids saw today in science class.
Know what really matters. Know about your kid's school. And know about your kid. Find out 100 ways to know more, do more.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar here again. Thank you for joining us in our third segment here. My next guest is a candidate for the Sully District School Board. She is a practicing attorney fighting for the rights and protection of kids. Karen Keyes-Gamarra, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I got to start by asking why? why run this year, this race now?
Well, I really had to kind of evaluate. Someone approached me about running, and I had to evaluate what I've been about for a long time. I've been representing children since 2008. I have 3 boys. I've done a lot of advocating within the schools. And when the question came about, I realized, you know, fighting for children, seeking their best interests is really what I do. It's at the core of who I am.
Well, it sounds good to me. Campaigning, I mean, it just...
it's a different animal.
Tough, right?
Yes,
tough.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is particularly a rough year for Fairfax County. I think I've been a parent with children in school since about 2000. I've always talked to other parents and had an idea of how they were feeling about the schools and what their concerns were. In this particular year, I think there's a heightened awareness of a deep concern. The Fairfax County Public Schools are projecting between a $50 and $100 million shortfall for the 2017. There's a real concern about how we're going to maintain the level of excellence in our schools, and I think it's a good question.
Is that, I mean, you're obviously knocking doors and talking to folks.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's where I'm getting this information. People, when I knock on those doors, they are aware of these concerns. They know that our teachers aren't getting paid in an equitable fashion in comparison to surrounding areas. They know about the budget shortfall, and they don't know how we're going to continue. And I think I want to be a part of the process. I want to make sure that the community is engaged, that they become a part of the discussion, that it's not, that they can help make informed decisions so that they feel as though they're being listened to and they're a part of the process. I think that is really what motivates me right now, because I think a lot of people are afraid and they should be concerned.
That's a big number. I mean, do the people out there, do they have suggestions or what seems to be bubbling up for you?
Well, I mean, I've talked to a lot of folks about possible solutions. Right now, we get our funding primarily, we have 3 sources with the federal government. We get some from the state. That amount has been steadily decreasing over the years, and our payment for retirement benefits for teachers has been increasing. And then the county gives us money based on property assessments. And unfortunately, during the economic downturn, that amount of money decreased to a large extent. And we've had several years, since about 2008, where we've been consistently cutting our budget.
Is there anything specifically that you want to, I mean, you've got a lot of issues. What's the one priority then for you as you're listening to these folks?
I think one of the most important things we have to do is we have to bring equitable pay for our teachers.
Yeah. And it's amazing that in Fairfax County, I have some properties, and part of them are set aside for county units. So teachers, firefighters, police can live in the county.
That's great.
That the fact that we have to do that, just, I mean, I don't know if the folks at home understand this. A lot of our teachers can't afford to live in Fairfax County.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our starting salaries are somewhat lower than other counties, but when you start to get to a teacher that's been working in our county for 10 to 20 years, that's when we really have to look at the differences. If you have a teacher that has her master's, he or she actually has incentive to go to Montgomery County, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, because they can make anywhere between $9,000 and $23,000 more if you include benefits.
Wow. Can't argue, can't blame them. I mean,
absolutely not. But you have to, you know, what bothers me is those are the teachers the kids are really looking forward to. Those are the ones who really ignite learning in our children. And I don't think we can afford to lose them and expect to maintain the level of excellence that Fairfax has been known for.
Are people willing to pay a little more to do that? Or
That's a very good question. When I'm knocking on the doors, I hear a willingness to really at least talk about it. I've run into a few people, don't raise my taxes, and I know, okay, you know, we're probably not going to have a very good discussion, but I would say 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 really understand that there's a real problem and they want to talk about how to solve it, because you know, our schools are such an intricate and important part of our community. We simply cannot maintain the quality of life in Fairfax County that we have come to expect and become accustomed to and enjoy if our schools aren't up to par.
So I'm going to be really selfish in this, and I view it this way. The school systems actually help my property values.
Absolutely.
So you can quote me on the record here. You can raise my taxes to help pay for some of the income that the teachers deserve. So I'm on the record, raise my taxes, I'm willing to do that.
I think because you've been doing this kind of work and you've been involved in the discussion, you understand how it's linked.
It's cause and effect, sure.
Absolutely.
It's not all about me.
Right, absolutely.
I don't live on the prairie churning my own butter, right?
You don't?
No. I live in a community, and I'm willing to invest in that community.
Absolutely. And I think if we can I think a lot of people are understanding that it is an investment. I mean, businesses move here because we have good schools.
Sure.
People's property values are higher because we have good schools. If all of that changes, it can have a devastating effect on our economy.
I mean, I would certainly, before anyone raises any taxes, you know, certainly look at the whole budget, look at costs and things like that. Do the things that you would normally do in a business or in a home.
Well, I think we've done that. I mean, we've cut in recent years about $100 million. I mean, if you compare what we spend per student in Fairfax County to, say, Montgomery County, Arlington, Alexandria, we are significantly lower. And so if you actually took the number of students we have and compare it to those communities that have similar demographics, similar needs, if you took what they're spending on the number of students that we currently have about a $2.6 billion budget. Our budget would rise anywhere up to $2.9 billion to possibly as high as $3.5 billion. And so we really have cut quite a bit. We're just operating on a very lean budget and have been for several years.
Oh. Well, hopefully that's a discussion that can happen relatively soon.
I hope so. I think, unfortunately, we're a political community, as I'm sure is no surprise to you. And I think there's been some hesitancy to really engage in what the possibilities are. What people are saying kind of behind the scenes is we really need to engage the community in that in that conversation. We need to talk about what's important to you. Do you want your schools to represent the highest quality that they have in the past? Do you want to talk about things like a meals tax? Do you want to talk about raising perhaps 1 cent on your assessment, which could 1 cent could raise about $20 million, which could be significant with respect to providing raises for our teachers. I just think if we inform our public and we don't scare them to death, which can happen oftentimes in politics, I think we'll make a good decision. I have faith in people to do that.
What are some of the other initiatives you're championing?
I've actually been appointed to the School Advisory Budget Committee. I'm participating in that. We've identified a number of things for possible cuts. We now will be taking the Fairfax County School Board will be taking that information to the public. There will be a couple of meetings. South Lakes High School as well as Mount Vernon. People can give their input online so that they can actually participate in the process. I think, you know, if we have a genuine conversation and we leave fear to the side, we can really tackle this.
Is that possible? Because you seem like a real, just normal person. I mean, are these difficult things to do, or?
Well, I'd like to think that it's not that difficult.
Okay.
I think that most people in Fairfax County really want to see our children taken care of. They want to see our communities taken care of, and they don't want the standard of living in Fairfax County to change. And that is going to take good leadership. I think that there are people on the Board of Supervisors who want to have that conversation. I think there are people in on the school board who want to participate in that. I certainly want to be a part of that. And that's why I'm knocking on doors to try to help people understand we need to hear your voice. I believe leadership begins with listening, and this is a good place to start.
Oh, well, okay, let's role play here. You come to my door, you knock on my door, I'm peeking through the window, I answer the door. What's the first thing that you want people to know about you?
Well, I tell them my name, obviously, that I'm running for school board, that I currently work as an attorney, I'm an advocate for children, that I've had experience going in the schools, and that this is a really important election. I first of all want to encourage them to vote, because oftentimes we have low turnout in these mid-year elections, and people are like, very low turnout.
Do people know that there's a school board race in the district?
That's one of the first questions I ask them. Do you know there's an election? And then you kind of get, sometimes you get, yes, I do. And people have been paying attention, and they've been watching meetings, and they've been looking at newspaper articles. And others are like, right? And so I try to engage them. And even people who don't have children, well, this doesn't affect me because I don't have kids. That's, are you a property owner? Yes, I am. And so I try, even at that door, that's my moment to say, you know what, maybe even if, I certainly hope you vote for me, but even if you don't, at least come out and vote and be aware of what the issues are, because this impacts everybody.
And just having people participate in the process is so much better for the process.
Absolutely.
Because, look, you don't want a few people voting. It's not true representative government, right? I mean, it's supposed to be, I would personally like to see 100% voting, but that'll never happen. But, well, when we come back, I want to get into the next segment, a little bit more detail on some of your ideas and some of the plans you've got. So I know we'll get into this, but while we're sitting here, what's the most interesting response you've had to, do you know there's an election out there? Really? Okay. So I'm not with Hillary, I'm not with Donald Trump, I'm not with Bernie Sanders.
Right.
So,
I mean, literally just standing there like, oh, did you know, they're totally unaware.
Okay.
So
well, you're an educator. You're educating them, and that's a good thing. Okay, so we'll be back in the next segment, folks. We're going to go into a little bit more detail with Karen's background and areas of interest here, some of the initiatives you have. So please come back and join us.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo. I would like to speak English better. Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar back here for our last segment with my guest here, Karen Keyes-Gamarra. She is a candidate running for school board in the Sully District. Thank you again for coming back and staying on for the final segment. So I always like to just bring up solutions. You know, we have issues, we have big issues. Well, what would you like to see if you could kind of wave the magic wand, a solution to a problem, maybe with budget or with class sizes? I mean,
wow. Well, there's so many things that need to be addressed. I think the number one thing that really needs to happen is community education.
Okay.
I'd like to see widespread participation. I'd like to see people be able to say, you know, I knew about that. I heard about that. Or I understand that we're paying the same amount per student now as pretty much we did in 2008. I think, and that's one of the things I say when we go to the door, you know, they're like, well, how does that break down? I'm thinking, consider this, the amount we pay per student is about the same amount we paid in 2008. Now, think about the amount you spent on groceries in 2008 and try eating on it in 2015.
Sure.
It doesn't work. It's unreasonable. And so I think when you have those kinds of discussions, I see people, even though they may say, I don't want taxes, or I don't want a meals tax, or I don't want my property taxes to go up, or I don't want to have more expense, it makes sense because it's just not reasonable.
Right.
We cannot cut our way to a solution to this problem. I truly believe that.
You can cut so much, right? But at some point, just like in the household, I can stop spending on everything. At some point, I need to figure out how to bring more money into the household.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just normal.
Right. And as I mentioned, I'm a part of that budget advisory committee, and that's the discussion that comes up all the time. Can't we talk about other sources of revenue? And of course, this is a committee that our superintendent, Karen Garza, established, and for the specific purpose of engaging the community to really understand this is what it means to try to cut. You know, at least this is my interpretation. She hasn't said that. But this is what it means to try to cut your way to excellent education. And I think it's crystal clear to most people who are participating in that process that this is going to hurt. You know, and when I think about the almost 100 things we have on that list, I start thinking about kids, you know, kids who are on that football field hoping that they can go to college on a scholarship. I think about the scientists that have come out and gone to various schools, and the engineers, and they have names. We're not just talking about numbers. We're talking about somebody's dreams. We're talking about their ability to move forward and to do excellently. We have an excellent track record. I just read an article about a young man who graduated from our schools who's now the top cadet at West Point. That's the kind of thing that we have produced in the past. I think the public really has to examine whether we want to continue to do that. And I think we would really talk about it. We get a resounding yes.
That's an excellent point. I mean, we are talking about Fairfax County.
Absolutely.
Northern Virginia.
One of the most affluent counties in the nation.
High tech.
Right.
I mean, it.
Absolutely.
I don't get it.
I think that's part of why I want to be a part of this process. I think, you know, we obviously are a very political community. We're very vibrant and passionate about our beliefs, and you know, we've got everyone from the most liberal to the most conservative and fiscally responsible. But I can't see where it's fiscally responsible to not take our responsibility to our children seriously. It's unthinkable in my thinking.
Yeah. What are some of the other, because you're out there on the doors, you're like, what are some of the other, or what's the biggest sort of misinformation you've had to try to correct or respond to? Just for the...
Well, there was a lot of misinformation surrounding what the changes in the FLE, Family Life Education. There was lots of discussion earlier. I actually interrupted a discussion on Facebook amongst people that I knew, and they knew me and they trusted me because they know what kind of work I do, and integrity is very important to me. But there has been a lot of misinformation as to what that contained. Things that, you know, was just, if you thought about it, you'd go, it would make you gasp that they were saying, oh, children are going to have to discuss these various types of sexual activity. Really? And so what I say to them is, I've read the policy, that's not included, and I defy whoever's saying it to show me the language that suggests that it's there. So there's a lot of scare tactics, and perhaps that does drum up a certain base, but I would say just make sure you actually know what it says before you get upset.
So you're trying to be rational, right?
That's kind of, yes.
Okay, so you're a rational person. Well, let me ask you about some of the changes that would be made to maybe improve some of the special education services, or another one that's near and dear to my heart. You know, growing up, we were on the free meals program and things like that. So let's start with
special education, for example, I've participated in a lot of IEP meetings, and one of the things I noticed, because I'm a guardian ad litem and I've researched what needs to happen for that child before I go in that room, the parent certainly feels much more equipped because of my presence or someone like me. But I think we probably can improve how informed a parent is going into that situation. They should not feel as though they're a deer stuck in the headlights. They should be aware of what their rights are. And I know that Fairfax County has taken some steps to try to improve that. I think that's one of the areas that we could possibly work on.
Okay. Again, the lunch programs, in terms of, has that been looking like it's going to be cut or
Well, much of that is federally mandated, so I
Okay.
haven't seen that on the list in
Okay.
terms of cuts. So, you know.
There's a lot of poor, hungry Spanish kids out there. And,
well, I mean,
sitting here.
I've read over that list a lot,
yeah.
and that's, you know, I haven't seen anything regarding that on as far as cuts.
Okay. What's the big sort of is there, obviously you're working towards the election. Are there any milestones between now and then? Any events? Any debates? Any campaigns?
I'm having an event on the 23rd where people can come out for myself and Dahlia Palchik. I'm also going to
And
be...
Dahlia Palchik is a candidate running in Providence District.
Correct, correct. We're also, I'm also participating in the debate. I forget, I believe it's in late October with the League of Women Voters.
Correct, and that will be seen here for the
Right.
folks that want to catch those debates. They'll be on the schedule.
Right, so, but I mean, the biggest hurdle is I can only knock on so many doors, you know, and I have to get the word out that one, there's an election, we need everybody to participate, and also so that they can understand who I am and what I'm about. And I find that when I have a conversation with people, I can see them kind of say, well, she looks like she might be okay.
Yeah, that's my impression. So let's fast forward election. You've been elected. Social media. Is that a tool?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. You can go to my website, Karen4, fairfaxkids.com. You can go to my Facebook. You can go to my website. We're tweeting all the time some of the types of ideas that I stand for. So we're doing everything we can to reach out to every segment of the community.
What are some of those discussions been like? I assume you have a campaign team and...
Yes.
Okay.
A discussion with respect to...
On the social media. I mean, have they been fairly
well,
civil?
I'm gathering followers right now.
Okay.
You know, one of my favorites said, build a school, close a prison. I mean, I believe you invest in our children. You give them options, you educate them, you help them to realize there's something else to do other than negativity. I am a benefactor of teachers who believed in me.
Sure.
And I know I can name specific teachers that my children had where I literally saw learning ignited inside of them. That's the kind of education I want to support. When I have a second grader who ran home like my son did, he was so excited about his teacher, Mr. Bechtel. Every day he ran home excited to tell me what he was learning. I mean, he was building something in my son that is absolutely invaluable, which is why I have no problem fighting to improve the salaries of our teachers, because we absolutely need them.
That is amazing. You made me recall a time in high school where I accidentally got into a chemistry class that I just, chemistry, it was with the toughest teacher at that time. Her name was Miss Au. And I was like, I just didn't apply myself the first couple of weeks. And I'll never forget, she challenged me. She called me out. Says, Mr. Del Aguila, you are not a stupid man. And she just like laid it out for me. I ended up getting a B in her class.
Right.
But if it weren't for her or other teachers to inspire people at a point in time when they need it, do you know what I mean? Because I think, certain kids develop differently and they need that inspiration. And that comes from teachers to a large extent. Certainly the parents and family and friends, but teachers do play a big role in that.
Absolutely.
So we have just a few more minutes here. Just what's it been like running for office for you?
It has been, I think, very enjoyable. My children, I have 3 boys, as I said, and 1 is away now, and 2 have been actually helping me campaign, and they say, Mom, do you have to talk to everybody?
Yes.
And it's not necessarily about the campaign. You're going in the store, you just end up bumping into somebody and having a conversation, and they think I slow the process down. And I would say that one of the most enjoyable things is to really get to know people and talk to people and realize how much common ground we have.
Sure.
And so I really would like to facilitate that type of discussion in our community, because I just think we live in a great community, and so many of us don't know one another, don't realize what the benefit of one person is to another. I'd like to bridge the gap to the extent that I could.
It's easier to dislike someone you don't know.
Absolutely.
Right, and I think, I will tell you, just observing the most successful elected officials talk to everyone. It's called constituent services, and they don't care who you are. My door is open for you.
Absolutely.
And I will listen, right? That's their attitude. And you can't, it's hard to dislike someone that you have a conversation with. My mom would always tell me, buy someone a drink, buy them some food, feed them. They'll dislike you less. Doesn't mean they'll like you.
Right.
It just means they'll dislike you. Well, Karen, thank you so much for coming on the show again. I wish you the best of luck. And in full disclosure, I may have contributed to your campaign. I'm not sure.
Not yet, but we're still waiting.
Okay, okay, well then, full disclosure, I will end up donating to Karen's campaign. I wish you all the luck in the world, and if you'd like to come back, please do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Look forward to it. You're going to do great.